And I think sometimes we here in Corpus Christi, we suffer from a little identity crisis sometimes, and we don't know,
Or we only see what we see in front of us, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
and we don't understand that impact on the economy. The
Right.
other thing is that Corpus Christi is the largest exporter of oil in the entire country. We reduce the dependency on foreign oil.
Right.
Cheniere reduces the dependency on foreign coal.
Right.
And on Russian coal. So we have, I joke around, I'm a big UT fan, and they say what happens here changes the world. Well, I mean, what starts here changes the world. And here, what I've been telling, kids that I go and speak to, that what happens in Corpus Christi changes the world.
Right. Welcome to United We Podcast, the official podcast of the United Corpus Christi Chamber of Commerce, the only chamber podcast in South Texas. I'm your host, Al Ariola Jr., and we're here to explore the latest business insights, community stories, and opportunities shaping the coastal bend. Whether you're a business owner or just passionate about our region, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back, Chamber family and friends, to United We Podcast. We are back, and today we are with Roland Barrera. I know him as a councilman, but we also here at the Chamber know him as a proud Chamber member through Roland Barrera Insurance. Roland, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Yeah, well, so let's chop it up real quick. So let's tell us a little bit about Roland Barrera Insurance and the company.
Basically, what we are is we're a benefits consulting firm. At the very core of what we do is we manage health insurance or employee benefits for the private and public sector. Medical, dental, vision. But another perspective that we offer is compliance. Now in this highly regulated industry, we need to be able to arm employers with their compliance, and then we also provide an enrollment platform, provide connectivity to carriers. So there's a lot of technology involved as well. It's not just about who gives you the best price.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, is that we're certainly seeing dynamics in the marketplace as a whole right now, and the insurance market has, for the past 4-8 years, been an interesting place to work in, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is I think one of the things now that we look at it from the perspective is how do you finance a health plan and how do you finance access to care?
Right.
And particularly prescription drugs are very expensive. And right now, GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic, those type of drugs are very costly. And, you look at it, you might have a population of, let's say, for example, 100 employees, and you might spend $200,000-$300,000 alone on those type of drugs. But if you're able to prevent a heart attack or a stroke, that with one person, you might mitigate $250,000 versus over the body of the entire group. So it's really interesting. I can get real nerdy about it if you want.
You're already there.
People don't see me on that side, and so it's cool to talk about.
You're already there. Well, let's shift it a little bit into your civic engagement. So you've been a proud chamber member for how long?
Oh man, I'd say at least 10 years.
What keeps us What keeps you coming back?
Well, I think a lot of it basically has to do is, number one, the first reason I joined was I wanted a network. I was just trying to basically market my company, and that was just real important, being able to get actively engaged. I have to commend, since you've been brought on board, you've been much more engaged in trying to initiatives that help to expand the economy, whether it be issues with regard to windstorm, issues with regard to water, issues with regard to the support of industry. Those things help to drive economic opportunity for our company.
Yeah.
So, what have you, if we can make Corpus Christi a true chamber of commerce in the sense where they invite the expansion of the economy, not just an event. I think there's been times I've seen other chambers of commerce where in the past what they've done is that they have events just to sustain themselves.
Sure.
And to be able to cover the budget.
Right.
But I think to have something meaningful that says, hey, this is expanding economic opportunity in Corpus Christi, and I think that's one of the things that's kept me here.
No, I'm glad you touched on that too, is that certainly we do very good work in the collaboration space where we bring people together, get them networking, get them connected to each other. But I think to your point a little while ago is maybe there's some room left to be desired in the advocacy space that we and certainly this chamber has been present, but I think right now with the challenging times that we're in, that we maybe need to be a little bit more offensive than defensive, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think we're in that space now. You brought up some issues that are certainly on the plate right now, and I think why not just let's get into it. Is water? Water is certainly being discussed all over the state of Texas. It's something we've been hyper concerned about here in Corpus Christi right now with the stage 3 restrictions, and who knows, without a weather event, what that could look like on another restriction, and then what you guys are dealing with maybe some other short-term fixes, and maybe also keeping your eye on the prize for long-term growth. So where do you want to start?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a lot to unpack there. Well, I think number one, the state of Texas understands that it's important that something needs to be done, and
Right.
there need to be some resources available. But Corpus Christi is very unique. There was a Water Resources Committee that our state representative, Denise Villalobos, is on, and she brought up the importance of the Corpus Christi economy to the entire state, in addition to the nation and worldwide.
Right.
We provide, two of our refineries provide fuel for major airports.
Yeah.
And we provide fuel to DFW.
Right.
So that affects not only national travel, not only state, but international travel.
Yeah.
So that product that that industry puts out provides, transportation worldwide.
Right.
And I think sometimes we here in Corpus Christi, we suffer from a little identity crisis sometimes, and we don't know,
Or we only see what we see in front of us, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we don't understand that impact on the economy. The other thing is that, Corpus Christi is the largest exporter of oil in the entire country. We reduce the dependency on foreign oil.
Right.
Cheniere reduces the dependency on foreign coal.
Right.
And on Russian coal. So we have, I joke around, I'm a big UT fan, and they say what happens here changes the world. Well, I mean, what starts here changes the world. And here, what I've been telling, kids that I go and speak to, that what happens in Corpus Christi changes the world.
Right.
And the strong component of that is providing water. There's certain,
and I think what it's for drinking certainly, but water is a staple in any kind of product. You need water to make it. Right.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that water makes Corpus Christi competitive to industry because it's cheaper to have a cooling system. Cheniere made the decision that they're utilizing another cooling system of which is not so dependent on water. I don't know that they use 1 million gallons a day. But then you have a organization like Exxon, and that is how they plan basically that when they finally pick this $1 billion investment and what it's going to produce, then they're using right now about 11.5 million gallons a day,
right.
For basically cooling their systems so that way they can produce the plastics that are used worldwide. And so we have that footprint on this worldwide economy. So it's very important we come to some solution. And I know there's controversy there that people say that, that if it's for industry, then let industry pay for it. But, you or I, we pay probably $30 a month for water.
More or less. Yeah.
$38, whereas big industry probably is paying closer to, $400,000,
right.
$500,000 a month
right.
for that water. So it's all relative based on what it is they produce.
Right. Well, and I heard the economics of it all too, being compared to when you go buy a liter of soda at the grocery store, it's going to be a considerable markup compared to you buying that 12-pack, that 24-pack, the wholesale of selling water too. Yeah. So
I think it's just very important that we understand that it's a very important part of our economy. Mm-hmm. Provides a lot of high-paying jobs. Right now, a year ago, Corpus Christi, the coastal Bend area, was the average wage was equivalent to that in the entire state of Texas.
Which it hadn't been in decades.
Decades. And now there's certain sectors where we're exceeding that of Houston, Austin, San Antonio.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with these higher paying jobs that come as a result of industry.
Well, I'm glad you touched on the anti-industry sentiment that was a little bit out there. I think we're starting to see it. It's starting to, I don't want to say pacify, but I hope they're starting to understand the value of what these companies bring. And to your point about the connection to the global economy, the world doesn't function with a lot of these things, and people take for granted maybe that we're talking as simple as the plastics that you use in your everyday life, like a toothbrush, like a water bottle, like
my glasses.
Your glasses. I mean, even a avid biker that might not want to drive in a car, well, your helmet was probably made of petroleum too. So yeah, no, it touches all our lives in so many different ways. And like you mentioned, it's starting here in Corpus Christi, and maybe we should have a point of pride as a community that, to your point, it starts here. That a lot.
Oh yeah, it starts here. Well, I can tell you, there's an engineering firm across the hall from my office, and they've been able to expand now. I think they have maybe 25 people on staff, and I remember, it was before they even opened the office. They had 2 people here locally working remotely. And the Pape Dawson is based out of San Antonio, but the cool thing
they're out of everywhere now.
Yeah, well, the cool thing is that there's several of their employees, and I mean young people, late 20s, early 30s, that were working in San Antonio or in another office that they had in a larger metropolitan area, that they were from Corpus Christi and they actually moved back home. That's a great thing. 2 Moody High School graduates, engineers that are there.
Well, and a point of pride for me too. I didn't go to high school here, but I came to college here, and I always had a want if there was the opportunity. And when I first graduated, I stayed, and the opportunity that I had was a little different. I was doing lease purchase financing for a furniture store. So I was a repo man from time to time too. But no, I mean, the economic conditions back in the early 2000s here in South Texas, it's night and day compared to, like you were discussing, the median income shift, the opportunities here that I hope our locals are seizing on, especially. But if not, let's make sure we're bringing in the best type of talent, like you're suggesting too.
Absolutely, and and I think one of the things, the message that we need to convey, is that there's times, and it's no secret I've been pro industry.
Yeah.
And our business has an impact on it. We don't necessarily do business with any of the refineries, but we do business with some of their vendors.
Right.
And so it's important.
Well, I'm glad you touched on that too. Is that trickle down effect in the economy that I don't know people they're seeing it, but those industry partners have made a very concerted effort to try to connect to small businesses with procurement opportunities and things like that. I mean, I know that GCGV, as an example, I think they spent close to $6 million in local contracts. And again, actively looking to connect to those businesses for those services, not just taking it for granted. Oh, we'll just get it from Houston. Oh, we'll just get it from San Antonio. No, they have looked and tried to connect. I'd like to think our chamber's been a helpful tool on that. Shout out to our VP of Economic Empowerment, Hope Rangel, who helps coordinate some of these programs. But Chenier, Valero, GCGV, Baker Hughes, I'm seeing they're more of a commitment from them on this approach to continue to grow our local backyard as well.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think that's a thing, and that's an important component, is trying to do business with locals.
Right. And so just getting those businesses connected to those type of opportunities with big industry.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the other thing that needs to be conveyed is that how responsible they are towards the environment. They're an easy target. Obviously, petroleum-based type of industry is petroleum-based, natural gas.
Well, they're you know what? I think those are dated assumptions too, where people are thinking about oil derricks in the middle of the fields and people with hammers. And I mean, a lot of what you're seeing in action is tech-based, it's technology, it's absolutely. Monitoring, it's really
and one of the things that I share is that I got involved in politics about 25 years ago when I got on the RTA board. And the big deal back then was to sustain our clean air status. And so we've maintained that for 25 years. And industry has expanded probably 400% or 500%.
Right, and we have better air quality than major urban cities. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's a thing. And that's also an attraction. I think a lot of these industry come here and they recognize that there's clean air status. There's less of an impact of this regulatory cost, and so they recognize that, and that makes us attractive. And then and it's important that we back that up, that we've got to ensure that they have the water that they need.
Well, you brought up your civic engagement and your service on the RTA board. Now you are, in fact, a council person at large. How long have you been on council?
I'm starting my 4th term, so I completed 6 years.
And is this your last term
Yeah, we can only serve you can only serve 4 terms.
as a council person? Does it matter at large or district?
Yeah, it doesn't matter at large or district.
Some.
Now, if I chose to run for mayor, I'm not putting that rumor out there.
You just did.
I'm just basically saying that if I chose to run for mayor, I could continue that, but I don't have a desire to do that.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, there's a lot going on at City Hall. You guys have been incredibly busy with infrastructure improvements. I'm seeing them on the road. Those roads, they ain't going anywhere for the next 50, 100 years.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
of these major improvements you've made on, especially the bigger thoroughfares. Water is obviously present. You guys are working very hard on immediate solutions, long-term solutions. I don't want to belabor that point because I think it's been discussed enough. But is there something right now that maybe the community, our members aren't maybe familiar with? Something that was on our radar at the state level is regarding the convention center, and you know that the chamber's been a big advocate for
Absolutely.
enhancement of that. But right now there's a state proposal introduced by Senator Chuy Hinojosa and Representative Villalobos regarding the zone around the convention center. Do you want to educate the folks on
Well,
what's
the
going on with
project
that?
financing zone, or
Yeah.
PFZ,
Yeah.
basically what it is it takes the mixed beverage tax, it takes the state hotel occupancy tax, and right now we've frozen what our collections are now. And much like a TERS, all that increment as it continues to grow, then we'll be able to utilize that for improvements or expansion of the project that we'll determine. We haven't done it yet. We still got to do that, but of the convention center arena complex.
Okay, so and I think I understood most of that. Bring that down to me if I was in high school.
Well, right now, let's just say, for example, you've got a hotel that you go to, and you have the state hotel occupancy tax, and we've got X amount of people that go there, and it produces X amount of dollars. So as that grows, then that money comes available for us to utilize for improvements
To the convention center.
to the convention center.
And so right now, the way, if I read this correctly, the way the law was written originally was it's a 3-mile radius around the convention center. And unfortunately, the way it was written, it was like a circular radius. And right now, everybody at home knows that the convention center is on the water.
Yeah.
Half of it is off of.
More than half, a little bit. I think it's like 52% of it is outside, is in the water.
Right.
And so the legislation in this session is in particular to try and calculate that way, so that way we can utilize that to be more conducive, so that way we can have hotels in the area versus
That would contribute to that.
that would contribute to it versus obviously there's no hotels out in the water,
Right.
Unless we built one, which once again
it's
hard to find a developer
challenging
with that kind of
conversation,
vision.
which
Yeah.
was this challenging conversation. I don't know if we want to go into the ghost of Christmas past, but I do remember obviously the discussion on sales tax 2 years ago, and then compared to the conversation we ended up being able to have last year, where I think ultimately folks did show that yes, the convention center is an asset, and where we headed with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think there was just I think having the idea and the focus of what we wanted to accomplish. I think myself included, we probably did a poor job messaging it, and I think we just need to recognize. I think for the public, and then the time that we had it also.
Right.
It was a very difficult time.
Off-year election.
I mean, and I think that's the whole thing. I think we could have done a better job messaging it, getting it out to the public. But I think for the most part of it, there's been a lot of people that graduated from high school there.
Right.
It's a great event for the Texas A&M Corpus Christi. There's been internet. Well, Showtime Boxing has been there. HBO Boxing has been there. CBS Sports here in a couple of months, maybe a month and a half. You're going to have rodeos that are going to be on CBS Sports.
Yeah.
So it is the area is an attraction, and we need to be able to provide a facility to be able to bring those out.
What do you believe is the future of that area? I mean, there's a lot of space that I think leaves room for anybody that says I can start from scratch, versus other urban cities is, I got to tear this down, I got to rehab, I got to deal with historic stuff. I mean, here it's for the taking, I feel.
Oh, I agree. I agree, and I think the thing is that we have to learn that when it was initially built, I mean, it was a great idea, and it still is. And I think that the challenge is now, if we want to attract major conventions, or if we want to attract major features or feature acts, that we need to have a facility that is walkable, a hotel that is walkable. And so I think that may have been a point of contention. And in the past, people thought the city was going to build a hotel.
Right.
But I think just like we have resources or tools that incent a hotel developer within the downtown area, that we could utilize that for the same tool, because once again it attracts more individuals. I was in Washington D.C. last week for a credit union conference, and it was it was walkable from the hotel to the conference center.
Yeah.
Now there were shuttles available, but there was that option, and I think I love going to the Woodlands and going to the Woodlands Pavilion, the Cynthia Mitchell Woodlands Pavilion.
Right.
And the majority of the time, we're going to stay at a hotel that is right next door in the vicinity.
Yeah.
And I think that offers an attraction. And I think the other thing that it does is that it incents people to stay more than one day.
Right.
And so I think those are some things that we need to think about, and there are some improvements. And then there's some basic improvements that we need to do that are in the neighborhood of about $50 million. Things like the roof, the air conditioning. We just approved the first phase of redoing the air conditioning there. So I think some of the major things that we need to do, we obviously need to make it a more an area that it's enticing to bring more people.
Right. Well, with the little time that we have left here, we're in the legislative session. We talked about water. We know some vehicles are moving in regard to that. Is there any other windstorm? Shout out to Representative Hunter. He's filed a windstorm bill too that we're tracking. We're tracking quite a few, but is there anything that's specific on your radar that you think we need to be watching as well?
Well, I think some of the things that we just need to be cognizant of, and it's not. There's this challenge at the legislature now with local control.
Yeah.
And there's a thing that it makes it very difficult for a local policymaker to be able to make decisions on where we're going to invest our funds.
Right.
A couple of sessions ago, there was this, anti-defund the police deal. But the way the legislation was written is that if, let's say, for example, like we were worried in our particular case, we built a new police training academy. We invested, upwards of $25 million. Well, we're not going to do that same investment the following year.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to get caught in the crosshairs. So I think there's some things there that,
Hey, you know what's unfortunate for the city of Corpus? I think you're just dealing with the sins of some of the bigger cities.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen the idea of how you guys govern locally, and I think some of those other cities were kind of going over their purview and what's in the Constitution.
Obviously, we're paying for Austin's
mistakes, yeah, and even San Antonio's. I remember when I was in San Antonio, they were not that the chamber or myself is against paid sick leave, but they were trying to mandate it at the local level.
Yeah.
And that, if you really think about the unintended consequences, is it's well intentioned, sure. And again, the chamber, most businesses offered paid sick leave, so it wasn't like they were fighting against the idea, but it was in practice. How are you going to regulate that as a local government?
Exactly.
And so, like I said, I think the city of Corpus, I've never seen y'all be out of bounds on what the Constitution has intended for you. But I like I said, I think you're dealing with the sins of some other cities.
Yeah, and I think those are some major issues. And I think, but once again, I think the biggest issue right now that we're having to deal with is water.
Yeah.
And that's how much that we're involved in. And I think we're gonna, one of the things that we just ask is that in order for us to expand the economy, we want to have a predictable regulatory environment.
And that's what every business should want, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think there's times that you may find, like you say, the sins of other cities. Downtown has encountered a lot of development. I mean, within the last, we've probably had, I think there was one hotel that was built probably about 6 years ago, and now we've got another major one right down Chaparral Street. I mean, it's going to be really exciting to have that one there, make it another people center. I was here Friday for First Friday, the Art Walk.
Yeah.
And every time, I mean, I probably come 3 or 4 times a year, and every time I'm really excited at how many people are participating. You see the streets already being prepared, and that's great for those small businesses that are downtown.
Yeah, no, tens of thousands of people.
I mean, absolutely.
It's hard to park sometimes.
Oh, yeah. It's been recognized in Texas Monthly.
Yeah, no, and shout out Alyssa and the whole team at DMD too, and they've been great chamber partners as well. Well, let me give you an opportunity before we close. Is there any love you want to show the audience? Any shout shout outs you want to give?
Oh man, well, I just want to thank the team at City Hall. I want to thank you and you guys. You're just doing a great job. And then I also, on a personal level, I want to thank my staff, and I'm going to name them Deetria Martin, Richard Barrera, my son, and Amy Garcia. What is it? I would not be able to be a council member without them. And they allow me the opportunity to be civically engaged and try and go save the world, as I like to say, or save Corpus Christi. And then, but they just they do a wonderful job managing their operation when I'm not there.
Roland, well, thank them. We especially thank them for doing that, so that we can have you be the great leader. I know you also went through Leadership Corpus Christi too.
Oh yeah, class 40.
So let's give you a little leadership plug too. Is if you haven't applied, get your applications in. They are closing on the end of the month, and we will welcome our next class come August. Well, Roland, once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your leadership in our community, and thank you for being a proud chamber member as well.
Absolutely. Keep up the good work. You got a great team.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
To our audience, we will see you again next time. Thank you for joining us.